Hi, my ASP peeps, and welcome to another episode of Conversations in Focus, where we get to know the wonderful members of the American Society of Photographers. I'm Marissa Belletti Lavoie, and today's guest is Dennis Chamberlain. Yay! Round of applause. Dennis, the first time I ever saw your face was in ASP Zoom.
Okay. All right. That makes
when we
sense.
when we started doing them at the beginning of time, and I thought, dang, that guy looks cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I wish everyone felt that way, but that's nice.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure everyone that's met you feels that way. That's crazy. So Dennis, where are you from and what are your PPA creds?
Okay, I am in Corrales, New Mexico, which is a village of 7,500 just north of Albuquerque. And I'm a CPP and a master photography and a photographic craftsman and a master artist. And I have my ASP educational associate degree.
What? That's beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah. I all my life I've enjoyed like certifications and so forth. I was a CPA in my previous life and a certified financial planner. So the idea of certifications like CPP was, oh, I want that. I just I'm motivated by that sort of thing.
CPP was number one for you?
Actually, the photographic craftsman happened
Ooh.
first, and and I know that's unusual, but I was teaching a lot, even though I didn't have the PPA credentials. What I had was I was a an Adobe certified expert in Photoshop and Lightroom,
Mhm.
and so I came into photography kind of a little bit through the back door. I had more expertise in editing and adjusting and manipulating photos. And then somewhere along the line, I thought, maybe I ought to learn more about photography so I don't have to work so hard trying to make these things look good. So anyway, so I got my craftsman degree first, and that was how I got into ASP. And then after that, all the other degrees followed.
Ooh, I also came in as a craftsman.
Ah,
Hmm.
okay, we can relate.
Educator, it's the educational one. And it felt like it was the most in my control because I just had to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. It was interesting as I recall, you sort of had to give PPA notice that you were approaching the degree so they could get everything set up. And I called them and talked to them. I said, okay, great. And then they called me back and they said, do you realize you need 13, merits and you only have five? And I said, yes, but I'm getting eight in the next 4 weeks. And they said, oh, so I mean, I was really cramming, I had all
Yeah.
these presentations lined up, and sure enough, of course, it all worked out, but they thought I'd made a big mistake.
They had to tell you that it wasn't
Yes,
looking good. That is
exactly.
cool. I did mine pretty fast as well. And it was just my friend Trish Logan said, do the math. You have these coming up. You just have to book some more and you can do it. I think I got it in 10 months.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. I had, and then ASP reeled me right in.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted ASP badly. I mean,
Yeah.
that
I
was my
walked
goal.
down the wrong hall once and saw the gala, and I just knew I was in the wrong place, and there's all these beautiful
Oh,
people,
funny.
but also that's where I wanted to be someday.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what is your current favorite genre of photography and what draws you to it?
Well, it's mostly is Southwestern art photography, and I say art photography because I do a lot of manipulations in my work. And what certainly draws me to it, and what drew me to the Southwest was were the colors and the textures of all of the terrain and the rocks. I mean, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and then the southern part of California, all of those. And so my style is to draw upon the textures and the colors, and do a lot of manipulation, as I said. And in my market where I sell my photography, that's what people want. So it's a win-win situation. It's what I love doing, and it's what people want, and so it's easy to sell, and it's a great life. You don't have to work too hard and do what you love, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, that sounds wonderful, Dennis. Like you're living the dream.
I am. I really am.
That's perfect.
Absolutely.
So what first inspired you to become a photographer, and how has your creative journey evolved since then?
My father was a lifetime employee of Eastman Kodak.
Hmm.
So I was born in Rochester, New York, and Eastman Kodak and photography were just part of my life right from starting out. I was like 6. Dad gave me a Kodak tourist camera, which had the bellows and it was medium format, and I'm hauling this thing around, and it's not as if I really knew what I was doing. It had like these little levers on the back, and it say if it's a hazy day and you're using 100 ASA film, flip this lever, and it tells you how to set your camera, and that's how I was. But so all of my life I had cameras, but it still didn't take hold really until a couple of things happened. Later on, I worked in the Eastman Kodak processing lab in Dallas, and I was a takeoff operator, which meant I was seeing Kodachrome film coming through the line totally uncensored. I'm the first one to see everything. And I worked there off and on between the ages of 18 and 22. And I was very inspired by the beauty of photography and also the extreme other end. I mean, you're seeing things that no 18-year-old should ever see, things that went on behind closed doors that I had no idea. And then the wonderful photography of Europe and all this stuff coming through all the time. So that inspired me, but what really turned me on to photography wasn't until many years later. It was Photoshop in
Hmm.
the year 2000. It was the digital age and it was Photoshop. And it's finally like, oh, you can do this stuff and creatively with your photography. And that totally turned me on. And that is when I really started getting serious. Joined PPA, and PPA and image competition and Texas school. Those three things really got me going and inspired me so much. And that was, Texas, people like Don McGregor and Tony Corbell and Greg Daniels. Oh, the Texas school was for me it was awesome. And I'd learned more in one week than the whole rest of the year combined. And along all that, on a satellite, I became an Adobe certified expert and in Photoshop and Lightroom. And I felt at the time that the Adobe certified expert test for Photoshop was harder than the CPA exam because I was a CPA during my previous years. But I loved Photoshop. I loved Lightroom. I loved photography. It all just gelled, and that's kind of how it all got going. And then I retired from my CPA practice in 2007, moved out here to New Mexico, which had been my dream all along. And that is when everything really caught fire because of the things that there are to photograph out here. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of my the way I evolved.
What? It was so good. Thank you. And
Yeah, it was
you'll do a
great.
lot of post processing with Photoshop?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I have, and some of the techniques I think I have mastered and evolved for my own purpose
Hmm.
in order to really bring out the texture of the Southwest without it seeming over sharpened.
Hmm.
And so in my presentations and classes, I go into that a lot. But yeah, I use a lot of post processing, and the other things I do in addition to Southwestern art photography are way more creative, involving some models and people and extreme creativity. And in my shows, I sell a little bit, I put a little bit of that up, but that's more for myself.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a realist, and I'm selling art photography in these shows, and we got a big one. The big one of the year is coming up Thursday, and we'll be I mean, Friday through Sunday, and we'll be setting up Wednesday and Thursday. And I've got like 45 metal prints coming in from Magnachrome, and I'm doing my printing of my frame prints, the canvas frame prints. And it's a wonderful time for us to be talking because I'm all inspired about this wonderful show that's coming up. But then my point was that as far as the real creative stuff, I enjoy showing a few of those. But and people really, some people are really fascinated. They'll stop and say, "Oh, well, that's really cool. Tell me about that." But The big sellers, frankly, which I love doing, are the Southwestern art highly manipulated
Mhm.
photographs.
Well, that's cool, man. That sounds awesome. I've seen lots of your work. It's absolutely beautiful. And I love when you said you were the first person to see all that film coming through. I'm
Well,
gonna, I have to
sometime
rewatch
when we're
it.
alone, I'll tell you. I'll tell you
Oh
some
my
stories.
God, the wild things. That's
Yes.
so crazy. And the beauty and it's just with that much imagery going through your mind every day, did you have crazy dreams?
I did back then, and they were, and it was actually more nightmares. And this, I
Oh.
think, I can tell you this part. And just as an example, the Dallas Police Department made duplicates of all of their homicide photos and sent them through.
Oh
And
man.
I wish I hadn't even looked at them. I was 18, and
Yeah.
here that you just can't not look at them. But
Hmm.
stuff like that would give me nightmares. Yeah,
Yeah. I have to be really careful about what I see visually too, or I'll have things appear while I'm sleeping, so I can't watch like horror movies or not a lot of crime stuff at all. I try to
yeah.
keep things nice because I don't know what's going to show up while I'm asleep. But in the back in the day when I used to scroll Instagram before I would go to sleep, I would have really wild, vivid dreams. So I had to quit that. Now I just do a couple TikToks and laugh myself to sleep.
Yeah.
That's
I
cool.
get it.
Your journey sounds amazing, and I love that we're coming up to the big show of the year.
Oh, it's the most fun because if you're a people person, which you are, of course, it's just, I mean, to get to talk to so many people, about so many things, including your artwork. But you get so much good feedback too, and you see people's comments about why they like this one, and usually they're not critical and say, "Oh, I don't like that one," but still, you can compare the two about why are they so inspired by this photo, and they ignore all the others,
Mhm.
and to me, the most rewarding thing of all is something that's a complete composite, which some of mine is. Even some of my Southwestern art photography is a complete composite starting with a blank canvas and just putting pieces together. And for example, one's called Sunset on Red Mesa and Red Mesa Pueblo. And so everybody said, "Where is that?" I said, "Well, it's actually a composite of a bunch of different pueblos that I wanted to assemble the way I wanted a pueblo to look. And then I put them into this foreground, and here's where the middle ground came from, and the sky and all that." So that's an example of the creative Southwestern photography that I sell. And people really love that for the most part when they realize, first of all, it doesn't even exist. So they think, "Well, how do I feel about that?" Well, I said, "Well, one thing is you will never see anyone else with this photograph on their wall unless they bought one of these few from me." And so they like the fact that it's so limited in the fact that no one else would ever see it. So that's
Yeah, and it's pure imagination to put that together. That's so cool. I'm not sure I knew that they're bits and pieces of things. You're so cool, Dennis.
yeah, I do a lot of that. But then a lot of I would say the least editing that I do would be a photograph where I bring out the colors and the textures and change the sky. I mean, that's like the least editing. And then it goes up from there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I'm gonna have to show that picture once I post this so people can check it
Great.
out because it sounds fabulous. Oh, let's talk about ASP now. What is the most rewarding aspect of being an ASP member?
Oh, easy. The camaraderie.
Ooh,
I mean,
yes.
to get to be close and get to know so many of the, I mean, the very top photographers, so many of them in the United States and even beyond, that's number one. I mean, where else? Just by basically getting my craftsman degree, I was able to just jump in and meet all these people and be inspired and just get to know them. That's the best. And then second to that, and still very important, all the programs that ASP has. I mean, there's something every single week and more, and on so many different topics. And that has been an evolution of ASP starting, I guess 2019, 2020, somewhere along there. It ASP has evolved so much, and I've evolved with it. So those are the things that are the most rewarding aspect.
Yay. You're
Absolutely.
right, Dennis. It's the coolest place to be.
It is. It's amazing.
It is. It's amazing. The Zooms are amazing. And that did start during COVID. And Zoom bringing us together when we couldn't be, who would have thought? The ASP really has done a great job in joining us all over the America. Like I joined in 2020, so I don't know what it was like before, but I imagine people had to kind of stay in their little pockets where they could get to with each other, besides the gala, right?
It was pretty much the gala
Mhm.
more than anything else. And of course, I love that. I
Yeah.
mean, just that the social aspect of that, but there wasn't a whole lot else going on.
Hmm.
And it all changed. You're right about 2020, or just about the time you joined, which is you're probably the reason more than
Ah, Dennis, stop it, but probably. No. When I joined, we had Leslie Kitten, and I know she had a huge hand in where we've gone since then. And Ella Carlson then came in as president, and we've just had a great string of really motivated people in our board. And now that we have kind of opened up ASP to so many different opportunities and avenues. We have more people interested than ever to join us, and this getting to know each other and getting to know our members is so important. When I ask somebody if they know somebody else and they say no, it's shocking to me. Like how could
I
you
totally
not?
get it.
And
Well,
yeah.
it's funny. Ella and Rob, her husband, were having dinner at our house a couple of years ago, and I complimented her because I said, Ella, the change that happened with ASP. I mean, I know that I have you to thank for it. And Ella, as we all know, is very modest. She said, "Oh, and it was Leslie Ann Kitten more than anyone else." And I think it's the two of them, and I'm sure I'm missing a whole lot of people that I would like to thank. But I think the inspiration, according to Ella, it was Leslie Ann that really got things going, and then Ella helped out. That's her story, and
Yeah,
she's still.
Leslie was just wildly gifted at being able to see people's talents and
I
get them
see.
to go into the position that was right for them. And I was recruited for social media before I even had my craftsman. So she knew what she was doing
Wow.
when yeah, by the time I got to imaging the year I was getting my craftsman, I felt like I was hosting the shindig because I had already publicized it so much for the ASP, and I didn't know anybody. I mean, I knew three people. I knew Tom Rouse and I knew Ella, and that was about
Oh,
it.
I'm one of my favorite people too. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I was
wow.
lucky to learn a week from Tom Rouse at the last real New England NEEP school. Him and Woody Walters did like a
Oh,
do.
yes. Oh, Woody, what a trip.
Yeah, it was a trip of a week, that's for sure. But
That's
like
cool.
you said about Texas school, there's no that intensive learning for that week changes you.
It really does.
It
It
does.
really does.
Maybe someday we'll have an ASP school. That would be awesome.
I think, who knows? Wouldn't surprise me.
An ASP weekend, we'll start with a convention and then we'll make it a school.
Great idea. Put my name into, I'm all for that.
Thanks. I love that, Dennis. Love to have you. So, do you have any current projects or anything you're working on you'd like to share with our peeps?
I do.
Ooh.
I have been working for a year on a 10-piece project. It's called A Delicate Existence, and it's black and white, which is not my thing typically. And it's extremely time intensive in terms of the amount of work. And I'm not done with it, but I put a couple of them out there, a couple of these 10. And it's interesting, the people like at art shows, and it's only been out a couple of times, but it's done really well and people are fascinated with it. It doesn't do, I put a couple out into ASP and PPA, and then they've done okay, but it's kind of like the judges don't really know what to do with this. It's unusual in that it's an environmental statement, and it is so far it's too confusing for people to know what to think about it, and I don't necessarily like that. But the suggestions I've gotten are that the title needs to be more descriptive so people can understand what it is. Now, speaking of Tom Rouse, I'm going to divert a little bit because Tom's philosophy is that you don't talk about the photo and explain anything. It's up to the viewer to be able to interpret. So I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place deciding what to do with this project. But it again, it's 10 pieces, and it'll probably I've been working on it a year, probably need another 6 months. And one of the reason it's so labor intensive and time intensive is that just part of the project involves taking a wisteria vine and doing a very accurate separation of it, which means you're pretty much doing it with the pen tool. And if you can imagine the little details and nuances of a wisteria vine and doing it, separating it out with a pen tool, and then taking the pieces apart and reassembling it in the shape that you want it to be, that's just like one of the components of this project. So it takes a long time, but it's a labor of love. I love it. What can I
Oh,
say?
that sounds cool. I would love to see some of that. As for the title, I mean, I love a two word punch if I can get it perfect. But if
Good
I
point.
need to do a sentence, then I will make a really beautiful, soulful sentence. And if that's what they're asking for, just give them what they want, man.
Now, I should mention one other thing that is the project I finished, but have been working on for off and on for 18 years, and that's a photo book about the village I live in, Corrales. And
Ooh.
I'll be talking about that at the ASP booth, I think on the Sunday of the convention. And it's a book that has the good news is it is a fairly easy sell here in the village of Corrales, but it's limited appeal. I've had a few people on Facebook want it that don't live here, and they've commented that, wow, this is the Corrales must be like the greatest place in the world to live after looking through this photo book. So it's a little bit unusual in that again an easy sell in this village. Everybody that sees it wants it, but do people that don't live in Corrales, do they really have enough interest? So the marketing aspect is not only to the people here, but it's like to the people here. You've got friends that have maybe never been here. You can send this as a gift, and they can see what a wonderful place you live. Or you have kids or relatives to send it to, or maybe someone that used to live here and has moved away and really would like to relive what it was like to live in Corrales. So it's a book about the artist. It's an artist community. This village is artists, horses, the balloons. Because of the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, we can see the balloons lift off from Balloon Fiesta Park. A lot of them land in our backyards. So if I had to say, our village is artists, horses. We're the horse capital of New Mexico because we have more horses than people, and the balloons. So you take that as a background, then you throw in the coyotes and all the other things we have here, and it's a great idea for a photo book. So that's why I did it, and it's doing really well.
Well, it sounds awesome, and I want to move there.
You'd love it. You'd be perfect.
I'd have a blast there,
I
balloons,
know enough about you
artists.
that you'd be perfect here.
I'm gonna have to come visit. Do you have a pool?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll go swimming. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Well, that sounds great. I'm excited you'll be at the ASP booth. Shout out to the ASP booth where it's the most happening spot at Imaging USA every year.
It
That's
is.
cool. And you'll have books with you, or
I
you're
will,
excited about
maybe the
it?
show. I don't really expect 20 people to decide they want to buy a book about Corrales, but I think they'll at least find the story interesting. And speaking of the ASP booth, it's a great thing that ASP does, having the people that have done books give the presentation to talk about their books. And I think that it's just another one of the great things ASP has to offer. So I'll be one of the book presenters that
Yeah.
Sunday.
And you'll be there. You can sign them, and
Sure.
that's fun. Take pictures with the people holding them.
Yeah, maybe.
That is awesome. That's where I would take selfies with everyone with the book. Oh my goodness. Awesome. And your art shows this weekend. It's a good time to be Dennis Chamberlain.
It is. It is.
My gosh, I want to go to Corrales so bad. I have to Google it when I get off of this now. Ah, well, how would people find you on the internet to be your friend?
I am, of course, I'm a Facebook junkie. I don't say what people will. I'm a people person. I love Facebook. I mean, I love staying in connection with all the other photographers and other old friends.
Mhm.
My website is DC for Dennis Chamberlain, DC Photo Artistry, .com.
Very nice. Very nice.
DCphotoartistry.com is my
Aw.
so
Well, you are fascinating, Dennis.
well. I'm a big fan of yours, Marissa, and I won't embarrass you with just how wonderful I think your work is. We can talk about that another time, but one of the things I teach and study is creativity, and I consider myself to be a real student of creativity. In fact, my ASP thesis was on creativity in photography.
Mhm.
And I appreciate creativity more than just about anybody else. And yours is beyond belief.
Oh, Dennis,
I'm telling
stop
you,
it. That
I,
makes
c- I, I know creativity, and you're phenomenal.
this is great. Thank you. I do need that sometimes because I get frustrated and think that I'm not getting to where I want to go as far as letting my mind be free. And then I'll see something Ella made, or I'll see something that, it's a piece of yours or a piece that comes across thing and it's just inspiring. And then I get the juices going again, and it's like just keep working on it. And I don't know. I watch a Jim Henson documentary and cry and make something.
That's it. I mean, that's creativity right there. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Thank you
are
very
throwing
much.
my
I
hand up.
appreciate that. The only thing I've ever really thought I am is an artist, so I appreciate that.
Well, you
Thank
are.
you for coming on my show, and all our people will get to know you a little more. And then when they're imaging, they'll all be screaming when they see you walk down the hall.
Oh, yeah, right.
They'll be
Of
running.
course.
I will be. And,
Okay.
and if there's any of our ASP peoples who would like to be on this program, send me a message and we'll make it happen. Thank you, Dennis. Say bye to our.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
You're
Fantastic.
awesome.